Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to take a look at our game called Apiary, or Apiary, or Apiary. Either way, this is a 1 to 5 player game. It's designed by someone new to me, Connie Vogelman. It is a Stonemeier production, and so you know what it comes with. It usually comes with solid components in their own unique style. It usually comes with a solo automata and the occasional cough and itching and swelling to go with it. It is a game about bees, but not just bees. Post-humanitarian space bees, that's right. If you've ever been to a spelling bee, you know how this works. No, I'm sorry. I'll just sit for a spell and let you contemplate that pun. Okay, I'm done with the bees puns. In this game, you are going to go around and you're going to explore, expand, exploit, but you're not going to exterminate. You're going to use your bees, and over time you're going to help your bees become what they are meant to be. In order to get yourself some awesome victory points, because victory points are still, even in post-humanitarian space where bees are the bee's knees, yeah, it still matters. So let's take a look. Okay, let's do a quick run through of what comes in every box of Apiary. First off, you get this glorious map. Game board. The game board is quite large in size, and it covers several different areas that you're going to be making decisions inside of during the course of play. There's a lot of tiles for farming, recruiting, and development. We'll get into those later. You also have the honey, the queen bee. We be jamming, and she's out here in the space exploration. There are decks for research cards. These you can plant. They give you special endgame bonuses, or you can use them during the game instead for certain bonuses that may help you or aid you in a given context. Every player is going to get one of these sheets. They're nice and scratchy, very nice. So they try and somewhat keep the slipperiness down. Not greatly, but somewhat. And then you have components. You've got your you got your pollen, you got your fiber, you got your water, and then you've got advanced, more exotic resources like wax and honey. These look like Rolos. I want to eat Rolos. I want to replace those with Rolos. And then, of course, honey. That's really the whole breadth of it. Everyone gets a docking mat, and so you'll be using this to store your bees. And look at these bees. These bees are kind of a rubbery type of style to them. Very, very intricate. Beyond that, you get a bunch of different starting tiles here. There's several in the box. I just picked 2 of the starting ones to begin with. And that's really what you get. In addition, you're going to get the manual. You'll get first off, you'll get a teaching guide, which I found useful, but only after I'd read the rules to kind of know what the vernacular meant. And so then I read the rules. Again, nice and very nicely sized. Not a big pizza box. But instead something I can grab and walk around with and read. You get an appendix which covers a great deal of every single thing. You're going to get a breakdown of every single thing in the game, really, and what it does, the benefits it provides, etc. And finally, for those of you who, like me, like your games Sololicious, there's an automa, as there is with every Stonemeier game, that tells you what to do when you want to play with yourself as the only person there. So that's it. You get some sheets, and again, you'll notice that some of these starting sheets they have different compositions and configurations just to add a little variety. But that's what comes in Apiary. Now let's get into an example of play. Let's talk about how you play Apiary. What is the object of the game? The object of the game is to win. How do you win? You win by scoring victory points. These little flowery light goodness icons here represent all the different places you can score victory points. You can also take a look here on the handy sheet, which gives you a breakdown, and then also you can see all the ways that you can earn these victory points. That's all great and good, but tell me more, Tim. Well, you're going to start off with a player aid, a player mat here, and you're going to start off with a custom tile. You're going to add tiles from here into there over time, and you're going to have some starting resources, basically. That's the essence of play. And you'll notice there's a variety of different ways to earn victory points, so it's not merely just laying out and growing your board. You can, in fact, you can at certain points even buy additional areas to place tiles and place those around. You'll notice that most of these places have unearthed a since they're not in Earth anymore. In-game values, like what's adjacent to this and stuff. So it's good to keep in mind the spatial ramifications. In addition, you get a docking mat. Why is this important? Because this is where your bees are going to dock. You have every starting tile kind of gives you like, okay, you get a bee starting at strength 2, strength 1, strength 1. And strength is very important. Strength goes 1 to 4. If you ever have to bump your strength after 4, then what happens is they hibernate. What does that mean? It means they go back to the side. You can consider them hibernating, and you get to place one of your 7 hibernation tokens on one of these locations and get a special ability. Why does that matter? Because that's kind of the timer for the end of the game. As you're using your bees over time, as you're just bringing them back into the fold, onto the board and out, and onto the board and out, you're going to be slowly gaining these. And when one of these is filled, or you've used up all your 7, triggers the end game, everyone gets another turn, then you count out points. How do you get points? Well, let's go over these areas too. Explore. Now, one of the first things you do is, on your turn, you take a bee, and you can do one of 2 things. You can either place your bee somewhere on the board and take its action on a qualifying area, or you can grab all your bees and bring them back. That's really the high level, all you do. You place and retrieve, place and retrieve. Well, let's say we're going to start here. Now I have a 2-1 to start with, so I'm going to place this here. For some reason they aim this way on the docking mat, and then you have to flip them over here on the, but there's an order they go in. You'll notice there's 2 spots. You always put it on the one with the arrow shooting out, and you say, okay, I can move 2. I move the honeybee 2. You don't have to move completely 2, but up to 2. All right, look at that. So I've now used this to explore space. This is the space exploration. I get what's on this token, which means I get 2 resources. So now I've got 2 more resources. Isn't that delightful? Am I resourceful or what? I'm going to set them here for now. And then I get to take an exploration planet. Ooh, Rosale. So then I place it here. I get to choose a basic resource, not the fancy ones, just the basic one. I'm going to do water. I'm going to place it here. I'm going to put my bee here, and I also get that. I get to take whatever's on there. Sometimes there's tiles that have 1 or 2 or more of the spots, and any, if you use a powerful bee, then whatever. And that's it. That's the end of my turn. Now it's time for my opponent to do the same thing. Well, the opponent says, you know what? I don't have what it takes to buy anything yet, so I'm going to go ahead, and I too am going to explore. Now what happens is this goes here, and now you have strength of 2 plus 1 is 3. Now you can move up to 3 spaces. So let's go 1, 2, 3. You go here, we do the same thing. You'll notice we'll take this token. We keep the tokens here. They score there, and then you get I get a resource of my choice. Well, I'm going to take me some fiber. Get some fiber in my diet. All right, same thing. Flip over the planet. Ooh, this is a juicy one. Malpy. Bzzz. All right, and then let's put water there. We land there, we get water. Isn't this delightful? All right. And then we're set. Now it's back to the other bee. Now what's going to go on? Let's try some other actions and mix it up a bit. So you can put this here for 1, and you can do a bunch of, for whatever the strength is, you can take actions up to that. So if I had say for example this was 3 instead of 1, then I could do this and this, because 2 plus 1 is 3. You get it. 1 strength plus 1 honeycomb means I can actually add a ship. Look at that. Or no, a bee. A shippy. All right, so now I've just improved my ability to do more actions. So that's pretty cool. And that's it. That's real quick, isn't it? Then we go back here and decide, well, what do we do now? Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to put this action here. And look, I get strength of 1 plus 1. If there was another ship in there that was like 3 or 4, you would add them together, and you get to decide 2, 3, or 5. So right now it's 2, so I can only pick from here, but I want this tile. Why do I want this tile? Because it's a farm tile. And whenever I bring my workers back, I'm going to get to activate for, put a returning bee here to activate it to get, well, I get Queen's Favor. Cool. So it's going to cost me this. It's going to do this, and it's giving me these places so I can store resources at the end of my turn. We'll talk about that in a second. So I return these.
and I place this. I placed it over a honeycomb, so I get a honeycomb. You can see this just like there's just a righteous way to like trigger all kinds of bonuses. Life in space as a bee post humanity is just sweet. All right, so we're done. Now, the one thing I didn't talk about is resource. As you collect resources, you have to have a place for them. If you ever don't have a place for resources, say for example that I ended up with these two resources. Well, I can put one here and store it here. There's a dual box, but I don't have room for this. What do? I cry, I put it over here, and I gain a queen's favor. What does this do? Well, it's just a basic track. The more favor you gain, the more victory points you're going to get at the end of the game. So, something to keep in mind. That's one avenue of boosting your victory point total. But now I have a nice situation. When I pull my workers back, I'm going to be able to use them to collect income and then keep them going. Now, we haven't done that yet, so let's go through that again. We're going to do one more thing and show you one other thing, and that is research. Research means you draw as many cards as there are on the bee, in this case one, and you get to keep them. If you have a very strong bee that you place here, you can also plant them, and then at the end of the game they're worth points. That's pretty cool. Or you can just use their top level ability before or after your main action on that you take on each turn. Look at that. Then we're going to have this bee. Let's have the bee do... let's bump. Let's show a bump. We're going to explore. Now I'm exploring 2. So 2, I'm going to bump this here, here, and here. Now I have a choice as red. I can just drop it in the landing area, and then it doesn't do anything until I collect all my workers back, and then it can collect income and then increase. Or I could just say, you know what, I want to keep it in the pool. It was a 2. Now I'm going to make it a 3. And back in it goes. It's ready for more. Now, what's advantageous about that? Well, I just, someone bumped me and it strengthened me up. You can even bump yourself. So go bump yourself. And if not, but what if it's a 4? If it's a 4, then then your options are, once you usually get some sort of powerful move. Like here, not only could I grow, if I bumped this out, I would make this a 2. For the most part, I don't use the landing too often, but for the most part, I'll bump this from a 1 to a 2. I'll go here. Not only do I get to grow, spend 4 points in growing or getting extra of these tiles, but now I can upgrade my faction tile. So I take this off and I flip it over, and now I have an end game. Now I have more places, I have more options and a better end game goal. So that's what that can do. If I had a 4 here, this is the one time when I can pay a cost for these buildings. These are not replaceable. You one and done. You get them and you use them. So in this case, you get 3 for every adjacent tile if I chose this. But it costs honey. How do you get honey? Well, we'll talk about it. First off, after we bought this, we should have replaced this sucker. But let's do this action. This action is convert. Let's say we'll do this. So when you get here, if you got a big 4-powered bee, you do a dance. And what you do is you can take any 2 of these, set them in there. And now everyone has these four options and a 5th option. You can only do this once, but anybody that uses this option, you, my friend, you get Queen's Favor. And that means that if you dance pollen and fiber, well, you get honey pot. Yay! So that's cool. The other way to do it is you'll notice here that you can make conversions. So each of these is a conversion. So if I had, say, a 2, I could convert these resources here, like these 2 here, into a honey pot. Well, that's great. Now I got to be able to store it, and I can, but at a certain point, if I choose to eventually carve, then I can shake one of these, for example, place it there, get a water, life is good, life goes on. So all these things or actions are going on. It's just a buzz with activity. And then, say I wanted to, well, let's just do this. So now I've decided on my turn, I'm going to bring all my workers back. So I bring them back, and I boost them. 1 becomes 2. 4 becomes hibernated. and here, same thing. We'll just 3 becomes 4. 1 becomes 2. Yay! And then this, because it hibernates, it's going to place one of these hibernation tokens, which we all know what that means. I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to get myself a wax. Who doesn't like a wax? It'll help with my beard. All right, and then this just goes away. You can buy it again using grow to get it back into the fray, but they get used up and they go on, and that's Bob's your uncle in space. So, and all this is going to keep going on. You're going to be grabbing these tiles, paying for these things, using tokens and costs. That's really it. That's the essence of the game. You're just going to keep going on. There's no discrete, in round one, use all four of your workers. As you're bringing your bees out, they're going to come in. There's going to be an asynchronous cadence between the various players and the bees that are coming in. You're trying to hit the zenith of strength for these, and then you're trying to get them back. Timing is big deal here. I'm getting into tactical strategies, but as you can see, you place workers. If they get bumped, they go stronger than you can possibly imagine, and eventually you just go and go until this is filled. When that's done, you track several of these tokens, these post-game effects. These happen during the course of time. For example, like I didn't show you, but if I'd done my farmer action when I brought my workers back, I should have kind of done that and showed you that, oh, I get a favor. Yay, cool. And then back into there. But yeah, the farms are good, as you can see, for getting sort of a continuous flow of resources or other things. The recruits are interesting because they provide sort of constantly running effects where you can whenever you convert those two, then the cost is less. So that's cool. The chemist, nice. And there's a lot of these. There's a big stack. And then finally, these are in-game resources that you can take it, or point makers that you can have in general too. So, and that's it. That's the whole point of the game. Go conquer space as a bee, get the most points, get the honey, get the wax, get rolling. And that's it. That's Apiary. Let's get into my final thoughts.
Okay, my final thoughts on Apiary, a game from Stonemeier Games. Connie Vogelman, 1 to 5 players. I already said that. Let's get into, as always, the cons first, after which I go into the pros and give my final thoughts on what I think of this game. First off, I will say a couple things. Despite the usual high level of production of the components, there are a couple things I wanted to spell out, and that is, one is the rubbery bees. They're great. That said, the numbers for the older folks I was playing with, they were a little hard to read, so they were having a little bit of a time. I solved it. It's going to make some people cringe, but I solved it by getting a little white out and just making it so that the numbers stood out, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, as you're flipping it around. So there's that. The other thing is, I found that some people were really just annoyed with the theme. The idea of, why not just use bees? What's wrong with bees? Why do you have to add the space theme or whatever? I have my own thoughts on that. We'll go into that later. The player mats were generally where you build your hive. They had kind of a roughery texture, but it was still pretty slick, and so a lot of people, the shifting and puzzling, the rest of the game, because it's so top notch, I think this is just something that kind of stood out, and so keep that in mind. The other thing is that despite my intro, all of the usual bee jokes are used all the time, and so I'm less prone to puns when I'm playing, because everyone's using all the bee jokes. Apparently everyone loves a good bee joke, so I'm kidding. And I would say that some elements of it are a little bit, I wouldn't call them superficial, I'll just say they're surface. I had hoped for certain, like the expansion where you're moving your bee around and exploring space, or building your base is fine, but the exploring space, I kind of wish there was a little bit more to it. I know there's plenty there. I just have this inclination for more. I do think that they should, I hope that they can do maybe expansions on this at a future time. The other thing is, while there's a vast derivation of core surface choices, do not expect this game to be a game of incredible depth, brow-furrowing strategies. That doesn't mean there aren't, fun combos and strategies to kind of show through after successive plays, but it is at its heart a light year worker placement game, and so keep that expectation in mind. I think that's the one tricky part in teaching this was the 4B transition when you're recovering. Like, do you go to the landing zone? Do you go to here? Do you flip up? For some reason, that took a little bit of. I think people kept wanting to kind of double check and make sure. Oh, I've got my 4B now. I'm pulling out now. When does it become go to B heaven? Anyway. But that was one little trick. And the only other thing I would say is that the Queen's Favor track was kind of ho-hum. I mean, when you overrun your resources, it's not a bad thing, and that's pretty cool that they make it so you don't, oh, I'm out of resources, I have to lose anything I don't have. No, you just goes to the Queen's Favor track, but there's nothing about it that's special. I really wish that. It's sort of like in the original Terra Mystica, you had these sort of tracks that you'd go up, and they're just tracks. They're just point tracks. Then in Gaia Project and Age of Innovation, when they did like offshoots of that particular game, when you had these tracks, there's at least a little bits and bonuses and little special little advent calendar like feeling things that happen. And the Queen's track is none of that. It's just pretty blasé. I would love to have seen that gotten a little bit more pizzazz. And finally, the wax tokens. A real big problem with that. They look way too much like Rolos, and so I've gained almost 1.5 pounds since swapping out those components for the edible incarnations. Not cool, guys. Not cool. Anyway, let's get into the pros. As standard with Stonemeier, you get high production quality. The rubbery bees, despite maybe the difficulty in seeing the numbers, are great. I love the rubbery bees. I love having that. I'm glad they didn't have like, hey, put a token, put a 3 token, put a 4 token on. No, it's just like, here, flip it B, then flip it to 2, then 3, then 4, then you're out of there. You're on to greater things. I love the oversized game board. I really appreciate it. I know they could have done a smaller game board. You know they could have. But I love it. I love the fact that they just said, we're all in. Here's a big game board. Let's have fun with this. And I think that's the mood that gets evoked from this game quite a bit. Tremendous information presentation. Not unexpected. Again, like everything you need to know, the helpers, the information presentation is what you expect from a Stonemeier game. The quality is high. Even if you don't like the game, it's really hard to fault them for not trying really hard to put together the best components in the most pleasing way in a box for you, the customer. I'm thankful that they didn't have pizza box size manuals. Thank you for not doing that. Those drive me nuts. Instead, you had 4 different information booklets, each with very specific information. You have all the information you need about just about everything. They went overboard to provide you with information and background and explanations on what each and everything, what all the hex tiles do and all that. So props to them for doing that. And you get a player aid too. So you're set. You're well prepared for this Boy Scout journey. I love the theme. When it was off-putting for some, I gravitate toward it a lot because I love a weird theme. I love when they take something, a simple theme, and go, let's add some pizzazz. Let's do something out of the box here. Yes, humanity's dead. The bees have taken over. Now they're going out to conquer the universe. Yay! I love it. Yes, more of it. I'm like, the argument against it was, why not just use bees? Bees are cool enough in their own way and all that stuff. And I honestly think you dodge some things here. If you have a space theme with bees and space, you give it sort of this wackiness that means you don't necessarily have to worry about taking it too seriously if you just happen to put the wrong pronunciation on this, scientific name of this particular bee in this particular way. I think it's good to sort of just have a more fantastic theme so that you don't have to worry about that. I don't know if in Wingspan they have, constant struggles about how this is named, or does this really represent that bee or not. Here you don't care. These are bees in space. Like, we're dead. We don't matter. The human opinion, not a factor. And so instead you get this crazy theme. You've got the queen bee mothership kind of going around the universe, and you've got other stuff. So I love it. Like, thank you for doing that theme. It reminds me, like, Cosmic Frog is probably the only weirder space animal theme I've ever heard of. And both of those, I think, go well to saying, hey, let's just have some fun here. So keep it up. The bumping mechanic isn't new, but I think that they did a good job with this, where you can bump anything, even yourself. So you can go bump in the night and then, be scared of yourself for all that matters to this game. The bumping mechanic works. And it creates this sort of staccato flow of play that keeps action going so that you're not... there's a trend lately in games to go away from the monolithic take 2 actions, and when everyone's taken their actions, end the round. And that's been going on for years, but now we've got kind of this new sort of phenomenon, and I've seen it here too, where you have this steady but punctuated flow of activity as your bees grow, as you phase them in and out. You like it's like WWF. You like tag, tap in, tap out, kind of thing, where you don't have to worry about the action getting, like shut, reopen, start again, kind of thing. Everyone out of the pool, got to clean it up, back in you go. You don't have that. And the bee strength factor, where where how you spend your bees is almost like a currency. I love it. And you're watching the balloon get bigger and bigger and then pop. It's kind of that feeling like pop. Okay, now I gotta go buy another balloon or another bee and stuff. But that, while it was that big 4-level bee, that's where I really need to use it, and sort of really adds a lot of it. And again, it just keeps flowing. You don't have to wait. You're just your timing and the ebb and flow is great. The building up your hive is pretty simple. Maybe a tad too simple. It'd be nice to see something maybe meatier in an expansion, but it's nice. It's a nice puzzle within the overarching puzzle that is how to conquer the universe one bee at a time. And the resource management, again, this is a game primarily about resources and resource conversion. That's the way it is. And as far as resources go, there's a nice, sort of like this mountain stream that goes up to the mouth of a river growth pattern, where you start off with a trickle of resources, then you build it up, then over time you build your hive storage, then you build producers, in there to be able to give you more resources and to kind of build the little engine that you've come to expect and stuff. And the dance. I mean, who doesn't love an interpretive bee dance? I love the fact that it's a simple thing, but when you go to the resource conversion section and you're like, all right, I get to pick my dance. I get to customize the dance, but the dance I create, everyone else is going to be dancing to as well. So I get a little extra bee. The queen bee loves me every time they use it, but so anyway, in closing, my final thoughts. Apiary, there's nothing here that hasn't been seen before. There really isn't. There's no new mechanics that haven't been tried and true. But that doesn't mean that this game hasn't done a veritable virtuoso of a performance in putting these elements together in a really harmonic symphony of a game. There's no bad player count. The automata works its well. 2-player, we've enjoyed it. 3 and 4-player, we enjoy it. This is no mere B-side game. It's a pleasant, exotic, humanity-free space romp. When you buy Stonemeier Games, and I bought every single one of them, to be honest, and I always find them well-produced, reasonably pleasant. Not necessarily always my cup of tea over the long haul. Scythe, I think I played the most of. Other games, Tapestry and Viticulture and stuff, I played over time, and I always find them pleasant when I play them. But they don't really necessarily rise to that Scythe level fascination, attention span that I did. Scythe, there was a phase. Some games you have a phase. Like I'm going through my Dominion phase. I'm going through my Scythe phase. I will be going through an Apiary phase. And so that's how good I feel the game. That's how it's overreached. That doesn't mean the other games get. I like Wingspan. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't really have a phase for it. I picked it. Some people really get into the Wingspan, man. Woo. But I'm more of a Hot Wings kind of guy. But yeah, Apiary, it's worth checking out if you're a fan of bees, if you're a fan of space, if you're a fan of Stonemeier, if you're a fan of weird themes, or you're just a fan of having fun and enjoying a good, well-produced game. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.